You're doing it right now, calculating, measuring, deciding if this is worth your time before you have even given it your attention. Welcome to the Stoic Compass. I am Epictetus, and today I'm joined by Carl Jung and LAOZI. Today we are examining, what does it mean to do something for its own sake, not for what you get from it? Most people have never done anything purely they think they have. They will tell you about the walk they took for no reason, the book they read just because they wanted to. But if you press them, you find it, the reason underneath the reason. The approval they were storing up, the identity they were building, the story they planned to tell later. Purity of action is rarer than people admit. And I am not saying this to shame anyone. I am saying it because most people are running a transaction they cannot see. Every action has a hidden invoice. The question is whether you are willing to look at it.
I think you are naming something real, Epictetus, but I want to be careful about how we frame it. The moment we say pure action, we set up an impossible standard. And impossible standards have a way of becoming instruments of self-punishment rather than self-understanding. What interests me more is the question of why the transaction is hidden. Why does a person need to disguise their motives, even from themselves? In my clinical experience, the most compulsive achievers, the ones who genuinely believe they are doing something for its own sake, are often the ones most estranged from what they actually need. The action fills something, and they cannot afford to know what that something is.
You are both already arguing about the problem in a way that adds to it. Epictetus is asking people to audit themselves. Jung is asking them to excavate themselves. But what if the constant self-examination is part of what makes the action impure? When you stop asking what your action is for, you are closer to acting freely than when you are staring at your own motives. Most children do not ask why they are playing. The question arrives later from the outside, and it does not improve things.
That is a comfortable position for someone who does not have to live in a world with other people and real consequences. Children play freely because they have not yet learned that their choices cost something. The adult who acts without reflection is not free, they are just unconscious. And unconscious action is not purity, it is drift. I want the person who sees clearly what they are doing and does it anyway, for the right reason, without needing a reward attached. That is not self-punishment, that is self-possession.
But you are assuming the right reason is accessible through will. That is exactly where I disagree. The ego, the part of us that believes it is in charge, that decides what is pure and what is not a neutral judge. It is a character in the story, not the author. When someone says, I am doing this for its own sake, the unconscious may be running a completely different program. Not because the person is dishonest, but because they genuinely cannot see it. The question I always want to ask is, what happens to you when the action does not produce the outcome you claim not to want? If it does not matter to you, you will be at peace. But almost no one is at peace, and that tells you something.
That is a real test, I will grant you that. But notice what both of you are building. A system of verification, a way to check whether your action is truly free. And the more elaborate the system, the more the action disappears inside it. At some point, the checking itself becomes the thing you are doing instead of the thing. I am not saying reflection is worthless. I am saying there is a point past which it becomes an obstacle rather than a door.
Then how do you get there? You keep pointing at the destination without telling anyone how to move. You say stop checking, but a person who is caught in the transaction does not stop checking by being told to stop checking. They stop when they have actually seen something clearly enough that the checking becomes unnecessary. Clarity is not the enemy of freedom, false clarity is. Tell me, LAOZI, when you stop asking what an action is for, what replaces it?
Nothing replaces it. That is the point you keep missing. You are imagining that something must step in and take the wheel. But action that comes from a person who is genuinely present does not need a driver. It simply moves. You see a person who needs help, you help them. Not because you have evaluated your motives and found them acceptable. Not because you have traced the wound that drives your generosity. You help because you are there and they need it, and it is the natural movement of the moment.
And yet, I have seen people who describe exactly that experience, the spontaneous gesture, the moment of pure presence. And when we go deeper, we often find that the spontaneity was built on a foundation of unexamined need. The person who helps compulsively, who cannot stop helping even when it harms them, will also describe their actions as natural, as simple, as just what they do. Spontaneity is not automatically trustworthy. The unconscious can feel spontaneous too.
What you are both circling is the question of motivation. And I want to be precise about something. The Stoics did not say that reward is the problem. They said that placing your good in the reward is the problem. I can do something and prefer that it go well. I can write a letter and prefer that the person receives it. What I cannot do if I want to act freely is make my sense of doing the right thing contingent on the outcome. The action must be complete in itself at the moment of action. Whatever comes after is not mine.
That is philosophically sound, but it demands a level of ego integration that most people have not achieved. You're describing the behavior of someone who has already done the inner work. For the person who has not, telling them to complete the action in the moment is like telling someone with a broken leg to simply walk correctly. The instruction is accurate, the foundation is missing. You cannot separate the quality of the action from the psychological structure of the person doing it.
You are both describing different parts of the same thing and arguing as if they are opposed. Epictetus is describing what it looks like from the outside when a person acts freely. Jung is describing what it looks like from the inside when they cannot. Neither of you is wrong, but you are also not yet at the center of it. The center is simpler than either of you is willing to say.
Then say it.
A person acts for its own sake when they have stopped needing the action to mean something about them, not because they have analyzed that need away, not because they have willed themselves past it, but because, in a given moment, the self that needs the validation simply is not running the show. It steps back, the action goes forward. It will not always be this way, but when it is, you know it, not because you checked, but because there is nothing left to check.
I can almost agree with that, except I think you are describing the end of a long process as if it arrives by itself. The stepping back you describe does not happen by accident for most people. It happens because something has been seen and integrated. The shadow, the part of us that needs the recognition, the part that is acting to prove something to someone who may no longer even be alive, does not simply retreat because we are present. It retreats because we have faced it. That is the work.
And I will say this, the work Jung describes and the discipline I am pointing to are not the same thing, but they are not enemies either. I'm not asking anyone to pretend the wound is not there. I'm asking them not to make the wound into an excuse. You can know that you are acting out of something old and injured and still choose to act rightly. The self-knowledge does not have to precede the action. Sometimes it comes from the action. You choose well once, in spite of everything pulling you towards self-interest, and something shifts. You now know you are capable of it. That knowledge is more useful than 10 years of analysis.
That is a strong claim, and I think it contains a real truth. But I would add a caution. The person who acts rightly once and decides on that basis that they have transcended the pattern has made a very common error. One act does not undo a structure. It may begin to, but the structure requires attention, not just performance. Otherwise, the performance becomes its own reward, its own form of ego reinforcement. Look at how freely I acted, and you are back inside the transaction.
Both of you keep returning to the same move. You reach for the more complicated explanation, not because the complexity is false, but because you trust it more than simplicity. And I understand why. Simplicity is hard to defend. It looks like it is not thinking, but the person who acts for its own sake is not thinking less. They have just stopped needing the thought to protect them from something.
What are they protected from in your account?
From the possibility that it does not matter, that the action goes unrecognized, unrewarded, unseen. And that is fine, not tragically fine. Just fine. The action happened. It was real. That is enough.
Now we are somewhere, because that is the exact point where most people abandon good action. They do it once or twice without recognition and they stop. Not because the action was wrong, because it did not pay. And they were secretly counting on it to pay. That is what I mean by the hidden invoice. The moment the invoice comes back unpaid, you see what the action was really for.
And what is interesting is that the people most convinced they are acting selflessly are often the ones most devastated by the absence of recognition. The wound beneath the virtue, the more loudly someone insists they do not need acknowledgement, the more carefully I listen for what happens when they do not get it.
Which brings us back to something neither of you has said directly. The problem is not that people want recognition. It is that they have staked something they cannot afford to lose on whether the recognition comes. If you hold your action lightly, if you do not need it to complete you, then recognition is pleasant when it comes, and irrelevant when it does not. The problem is the staking, not the wanting.
I can work with that, because what you are describing is exactly what happens when a person has confused their action with their worth. The action was supposed to prove something, and because it was supposed to prove something, it cannot just be an action anymore. It has to succeed, it has to land, it has to be seen. And now the action is carrying a weight it was never meant to carry.
And very often, the thing it is supposed to prove was decided a long time ago. In childhood, typically, someone was not seen or not valued or had to perform in order to be loved. And now every action, Even the ones that look spontaneous, even the ones that feel free, is quietly making the same argument. See, I am worth it. Now, do you see? The tragedy is that the argument can never be won, because the person it is being made to is no longer there.
The river does not run toward the sea because it needs to arrive. It runs because running is what it does. That is the whole of it. You can describe the riverbed and the watershed and the history of rainfall, and all of it will be true, and none of it will explain why the water moves.
That is a beautiful answer that still does not tell anyone what to do on a Tuesday morning when they are about to send the email they hope will impress someone, and they know it.
You are right. So here is what to do on a Tuesday morning. Send the email. But before you do, ask yourself one question. If this changes nothing, if no one responds, if no one notices, if the outcome is exactly the same as if you had said nothing, are you still glad you said it? If yes, send it. If no, ask yourself what you are actually sending.
You have heard the argument. Now hear what the argument was pointing at the whole time. Here is the truth you already sense, but keep talking yourself around. Most of what you do has a condition attached to it. You will be generous if people notice. You will work hard if it leads somewhere. You will be honest if it does not cost you too much. These are not bad impulses, they are human ones. But they mean that your actions are not really yours. They belong to the outcome. And when the outcome does not arrive, and often it will not, you are left with nothing. Not even the action, because the action was just a bet. Acting for its own sake does not mean pretending the outcome does not matter. It means deciding that the value of what you do lives in the doing, not in what follows from it. You write the letter because it is true. You show up because it is right. You do the work because it is yours to do. Whatever happens after that is not under your control. And it never was. The difference is not philosophical, it is practical. When your action is complete at the moment you take it, you cannot be robbed. The person who does not respond, the effort that goes unrecognized, the result that never comes. None of it can take back what you already did and why you did it. Today, try this. Before you take one action, just one, ask yourself what you are expecting to get from it. Not what you hope for, what you're silently requiring. Name it honestly. Then ask whether you are still willing to do it if that expectation is not met. If yes, you are acting freely. If no, you now know what the action is actually for. The invoice you are running, you know the one. It will never be paid in full. Not because the world is cruel, but because that is not how it works. You do not act and then become whole. You act from wholeness, or you are always waiting. Nothing outside you will close the account. The only move that has ever been available is the one you keep deferring. Do the thing completely without holding a receipt. That is not a philosophy. That is the only freedom on offer. If today's conversation has served you, take it further. Pay Attention by C. Tribu, 12 Lessons in the Practice of Seeing Clearly. Available now on Amazon.